Jonah Hillerton. Let's go!
This is our legendary spray artist, Gavin Hasagawa, and this design is by far one of his most complex creations. This surfboard is also being designed for the very talented actor Jonah Hill, which is pretty cool as well. So let's get started. Gavin starts out by lining out the rails. He puts this tape all around the edge of the board to separate the top design from the bottom design. He does this completely freehand, no tools, no machines, just eyeballs it and gets it perfect every time. Once he's done with this, he begins laying down some paper that he cuts to the shape of the board, and then he tapes it to the bottom. This will ensure that he prevents any unwanted color on the bottom while he sprays the rails. Once the bottom of the board is prepped properly, Gavin gets back to work on the top of the board, where he begins with a very thin tape to cover the stringer. The stringer is a piece of wood that runs through the center of the surfboard. Now he's using this blue tape to begin the base design. This design is quite complex, and he starts out with these swooping arcs that come from the side of the board and run up to the nose and the tail, which you'll see in a little bit. And if you look closely, Gavin is just slightly overlapping this tape in order to get the achieved width he's looking for with this freehand design. He's starting the second arc here, and again he uses the same technique, completely freehand, lining the tape up side by side, and you'll see why in just a moment. Gavin begins using his razor and starts running cuts across the tape. We'll speed this up for time because these cuts are going to reveal a really cool element of this complex design. Here it is. Gavin's peeling off the sections of the tape in order to reveal this intricate checkerboard pattern within the arcs. And this is going to create just a portion of this design, as there's a lot more to come with this surfboard. Gavin is such a professional with so many years of experience, he gets it done in about 20 minutes, which is just remarkable. Once done ripping out the checkerboards, he lays down another piece of tape, just outlining the arcs again, and what this is going to do is isolate these arcs because Gavin is going to spray this checkerboard pattern. And if you notice, he's leaving a gap between the checkerboards and this new piece of tape, and what this will do is create an outline around the checkerboard pattern, which you'll see in the final design. So again, Gavin is going to use some paper here, and what he'll do is cut it to the shape of the arc design because what he wants to do is isolate those arcs in order to spray them and not get any paint in the areas covered with paper. This tool is a tape paper dispenser, which is super useful to dispense large swaths of paper that help cover large areas of exposed foam. So here's the first color of this board. It's this jet black, and Gavin starts on the bottom of the board, just hitting those exposed areas of the arcs that wrap under along the rail line. Once done with the bottom, he flips it over and starts covering up the checkerboard patterns with that black color. He starts at the top and then he sprays the bottom arc as well, and it's going to look super stylish, and this is just one of many colors for this surfboard. This is a super satisfying part of the video where he's peeling off the paper to reveal those super perfect crisp lines. He takes all the paper off and begins the next part of the design. This part is this jagged style and pattern with these irregular angles. He's going to do this on the top section of the board near the nose, and he'll do it again in the open area by the tail of the board. And this is where the detail of the board really starts coming in, is Gavin is going to isolate some really thin lines, blending beautiful colors, and adding some electric accents at the end that bring it all together. It's really cool what the final design of this board is, not only the top design, but the bottom design as well. This is definitely one of the more complex surfboards that Gavin paints. Then again, using that tape paper dispenser to start covering up those jagged design areas. He's also going to go ahead and start covering up those checkerboard arcs as well, but if you'll notice, he's using this thin green tape to outline the arcs. And what this is going to do is create a super thin white line that outlines the checkerboard arcs. And you'll notice this in the final design. After he's done with the green tape, he uses a larger roll to cover up the black checkerboard arcs and begins mixing his paints. He's going to use three colors here, a yellow, a seafoam green, and a blue. He again starts with the bottom of the board, spraying that yellow along the tail area, and as he progresses forward, he transitions the color to that seafoam green, and then finishes it off with that blue towards the nose. Once done with the bottom of the board, he flips it over and does the same to the deck, spraying that yellow on the tail, transitioning the seafoam green in the middle, and then blue towards the nose. Once the board has been dried, Gavin starts adding some green tape outline to the jagged edge design. And if you look closely, as it's a little hard to see, Gavin is leaving a gap between the existing jagged edge tape and the new tape he's putting on. He then covers up everywhere on the board except that little area that he just isolated with the tape. So you can see just how much effort goes into creating just one line on this surfboard. He grabs his black paint and starts spraying that now isolated area. He's going to create a super sharp, thin black line that outlines the design of the jagged area that he just made. He begins peeling off the paper to reveal all the crisp white foam that remains, which will have a black outline. And once the black paint is dried, Gavin starts adding another layer of tape. But again, he overlays the tape slightly, creating another gap. You'll notice he covers the black paint and also a small portion of the foam, and this will leave a thin white line which you'll see in the final design. Once done with the tape, he grabs the next color on the list, this vibrant pink, and sprays the bottom of the board. Flips the board back over and transitions to an orange that he sprays within the jagged areas, and does this in kind of an isolated style, and then transitions back to the pink. So he's doing this cool blend of pink and orange in a bit of a random pattern that when he peels off the tape and paper will be outlined by a white and black line. He hits it with a little more pink overspray, and once dried, Gavin starts peeling back the tape and paper so you can now see that white and black line that outlines the jagged areas, as well as the thin black and white lines that outline the checkerboard arc areas. This is so incredible. You can see how crisp and sharp everything looks, and this is 100% freehand. Gavin, just an absolute master of his craft, makes this look ridiculously easy when it couldn't be anything further from easy. No machines, no measurements, no tools, just Gavin doing what he does best. Here he is pulling up the little checkerboard patterns and also pulls up the centerline tape to reveal the stringer which he covered up in the beginning. This next piece of tape will serve to add to the final element of the design, which really brings it to life. It seems as if he's putting it down in random places, but you'll see what he does in a second here. This is what the board looks like with those 6 little pieces of random tape. He grabs his different airbrush, fills it with black paint, and starts airbrushing in these super cool cracks or veins or lightning style elements. Those pieces of tape serve as a protective measure that helps join the black elements together and prevent any overspraying on anything else. Pulls the tape off right there, and now it looks like those cracks come right out of the black lines. The bottom of the board has a completely different style and method of painting. He again starts by lining out the rails because he's going to create a thin white line around the rails on the bottom. Because he's going to be using a pour technique, he uses some larger tape to create an almost skirt-like element so that any excess paint doesn't run off and touch the rails or the top of the board. He mixes some pink and some blue together, which creates this pastel purple color. He's going to dump it on the bottom of the board and use a squeegee to spread all the paint evenly all throughout. And this turns out super cool. Look at that. Really cool design, really cool technique for spreading paint. And you can see here how that tape serves to protect the board from that excess paint pouring over. He now peels off the tape from the rails and the bottom of the board, and now we're going to head outside and take a look at this insane final design.